Political drama and distraction. Bit of a psychological piece again. Why are political or so-called famous people and their sexual affairs more important or relevant to your own? Trump or Clinton slept with this person or that person. Some fake talent person off the telly is sleeping around and it becomes the hot topic of discussion. It all goes viral. Everyone chipping in their points of view, and some add fake mock outrage or get all sanctimonious. I wouldn't tolerate that or do any of that. Really. But of those who reported it, and many don't, as you know, 1 in 4 men have had an extramarital affair, and 1 in 5.5 women also. And the reality is it's far higher than that figure. They're only the ones that owned up. Women in the age group 18 to 30 are more likely than men to have affairs. The gap only gets wider in men whose age is above 50, but actually increases exponentially above the age of 70, strangely. So when you consider your average bar gathering of all males or all females going out for a beer, according to the average, at least 1 or more in those groups have had an extramarital affair. And yet I fail to see why it becomes a major topic of discussion if someone on the TV does it. It's voyeurism on a massive scale, prying into other people's lives, which reflects a lack of focus on their own indiscretions, habits, mannerisms or lifestyles. And essentially this is another example of externalism. Ooh, look, that person has done wrong and has had an affair, when someone in your own circle or even yourselves have done exactly the same. You see, the cabal doesn't need Big Brother. We do that to ourselves, interfering in other people's lives. Next item, which will roll us into what's probably the main piece of tonight's show. 7 UK MPs, which is now 8, have resigned from the Labour Party in the UK in protest at Jeremy Corbyn's approach to Brexit and also anti-Semitism. They are Shuka Amuna, Luciana Berger, Chris Leslie, Angela Smith, Mike Gapes, Gavin Shuka and Anne Kofi. Now, Miss Berger seems to be the main mouthpiece for this group, which won't be a surprise why. She said Labour had become institutionally anti-Semitic and she was embarrassed and ashamed to say. Mr Corbyn said he was disappointed the MPs had felt unable to continue working for the policies that had inspired millions at the 2017 election. But Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell said the honourable thing for them to do would be to stand down as MPs and seek to return to Parliament in the by-elections. And he said Luciana Berger's decision to quit was a wake-up call for the Labour Party over anti-Semitism, saying we were slow to acknowledge we had a problem and even slower to deal with it. So who is Luciana Berger? She is a British politician who served as a Member of Parliament for Liverpool Wavertree since 2010. She was a member of the Labour Party until 2019 when she resigned to join the Independent Group. Now, as a member of the Labour Shadow Cabinet, she was Shadow Minister for Public Health and then Shadow Minister for Mental Health. Born in London to a Jewish family, and her real name is not Ms. Luciana Berger, but Goldsmith. Berger was educated at the Haberdashers' Askey School for Girls before studying at the University of Birmingham and Birkbeck, and then the University of London. So you have the reason for doing that, this piece, which is generally a news piece, is to add on to the previous piece and the pieces to follow. You have two political powerhouse countries with politicians whose only role or interest appears to be a created country that is 3,000 and 6,000 miles apart and appears to have more importance than their own country and their own people. That country has broken more UN rules than all the other countries combined, and yet gets away with it, as Britain and America veto any actions. It's broken several Geneva Convention rules, and the same two countries veto that as well. The same two countries funnel massive amounts of funds, equipment and military arms into that country at the expense of the needs of their own people. And the people who are asking in both countries is why. Surely these 7 walkout MPs in the UK have far more pressing concerns in the UK than someone calling out a country or its people that's over 3,000 miles away. How about dealing with rampant pedophilia, rampant poverty, rampant crime, rampant abuse of the system by their own peers, and nearly 3 years later cannot deliver an agreement the public voted for in Brexit? But no. These people, like so many around the world, think that criticising anything connected to Israel is the most prominent thing ever. Well, it's not. Until Israel returns the land back to the real owners based on the 1967 baseline, or preferably learns to share it, stops killing people, running apartheid programs, cutting off water, agriculture, road and limiting access for people to walk free, stops creating fake false flags on their own people. The reality is they are not interested in their own people, as World War II and a later peace will reveal. And they'll blame it on the Palestinians or the Hezbollah or some other fake group created as an illusion of an enemy, until they drastically improve its own human rights record, stops interfering in other countries, stops creating rules in other countries to criminalise any criticisms. Hello, America. Stops playing both sides of the game, stops spying on every nation, stops installing politicians and lobbyists in other countries, and also apologises for the USS Liberty incident, then that country, to use a Bush and Rumsfeld narrative, is an axis of evil and a pariah state. If that is labelled anti-Semitism, fine, then I stand accused. I'll call it the truth, and the truth never fears investigation. Something the puppets protecting that state have gone to great lengths to avoid the real truth coming out. But until the full truth is revealed, this whole planet is under threat from these parasitic entities that run that country, not the people. And everyone is under threat, none more so than the Jewish people themselves. The reality is they sold you out in World War II, and they've sold you out ever since. And make no bones about it, these people running that country will do another mass genocide on you if it fulfills their goals. Make no mistake about that. They will always blame the Arabs, the Palestinians, the Iranians, the Syrians and the Nazis. But the real problem is them all along. 70 to 90 million Russians and Slavonic Aryans. Millions more in the Middle East. And everywhere else they've infiltrated. And for what? There is a reason these parasites have been thrown out of 106 countries in the last 2,000 years. The reason the same people were thrown out of the original Garden of Eden. These people are the Kali Ma descendants, and have created and wreaked havoc wherever they've gone, all based on a genocide book called the Talmud. that elevates those people above the 99% of the rest of the planet, including their so-called own people. I hope one day I will get to see all of the people of Israel rise up against the real enemy, as one day they'll find out what the real enemy is and who they are, like in America and like in Britain. The real enemies are within their own borders.